Is Chulin Daf Ches. Today is the big what's called big sugיא of Hanan, of Chatichenas and Nevela, and Efshel Seuchte. These are the sugyas that Velt learns spends many months on. But we will see what we could do, at least get a little bit of a taste, a little nice and tam, a little bit in the sugya. But let's first finish up Daf Kuf Zayin on the days. Some the last remnants of Netilas Yadayim, and a little bit more on the halachis that we have to finish off on Daf Kuf Zayin. We're holding Ibailuhu Eichel Machmas Michael. We're holding Kuf Zayin on the base, about 10 lines from the top. Ibailuhu Eichel Machmas Michael. If somebody's eating with being fed, Eichel Machmas Michael. He's being fed by somebody's feeding him. Is he's Nichlal in the Takana Netilas Yadayim? Does he have to wash his hands? Toshma Rav Huna Bas Choira Havakoi Kamed Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna Bas Choira was being Misharis Rav Hamnuna. Balam Le Umtza. So Rashi says two pshatim in Balam Le Umtza. Either he cut him a piece of meat, or Balam Le Umtza means he hid a piece of meat in the coals. Ve'ochel, and he ate. So what does that have to do with Netilas Yadayim? So Rashi doesn't address it. It's very interesting. Rashi doesn't address where's the Netilas Yadayim over here. Tosfos says Pirush Pasima. Where does it say the shot? Not exactly clear. Yeah, where's the passes? I would have said it's very interesting. Rashi says a second shot that Balaam means that he hid it, but he doesn't say that he hid it in the pass. Why doesn't he say that he? I guess that's the lashon of Karach. It's not a lashon of Balaam lay. I don't know. It's very interesting. Balaam lay.
They hid a piece of meat in the pass.
That's what I would have said, but Rashi doesn't say that. Balaam means he says two. Either means he cut the meat, or he was Balaam lay hit lashon hatamana b'gechalim.
Meat in the pass.
What?
Meat in the umtza.
Meat, umtza is definitely a piece of meat. So Rashi says either he cut off a piece of meat, or he hid the piece of meat in the gechalim. Why did Rashi say he hid it in pas? And that's the shmuz. I don't know. Very interesting. So the Gemara writes, Have you not been Rav Hamnuna? I wouldn't feed you. So what does he mean what does he mean that there's something about Rav Hamnuna? What's so special about Rav Hamnuna? So the Gemara thought to bring a raya that the pshat is that he means my time that we're assuming that Rav Hamnuna, we don't know. That's the end of the story. That's what we know. So we're going to try to figure out what happened. Did Rav Hamnuna do Netilas Yadayim or not? So we thought that the pshat is la mishum dezoyer v'loy naga. The pshat is that Rav Hamnuna is what's so special about Rav Hamnuna? Rav Hamnuna is somebody who's careful not to touch anything, and therefore he's willing to give him to eat even without Netilas Yadayim. Dezoyer v'loy naga. Yeah, and Memele, what will be a raya? It'll be a raya that somebody who eats by being fed doesn't need Netilas Yadayim. What does he mean that he's Rav Hamnuna? What's so special about Rav Hamnuna? That Rav Hamnuna is somebody that he knows for sure already washed Netilas Yadayim. So fakir, you can't bring a raya from that it's mutter to eat without Netilas Yadayim, because fakir, he means to say that you're Rav Hamnuna and I know for sure you washed Netilas Yadayim. That is the Gemara. We don't have a raya, but what's yet to sound from this Gemara very important is the Shinei HaLashon. First, when it came to not touching, he said a lashon of zohir. But when it came to washing Netilas Yadayim, it used the lashon of zariz. So what's the chilik between zahirus and zarizus? Yeah, this is the sugi for the Mesilas Yesharim. This is mamish. This is el the geshmuz. Yeah. Zok Rashi, I'll tell you, very geshmak. Zok Rashi, Zohir is a lashon of somebody who's careful not to do anything wrong. Zerizus is a larger is along the same line. It's in the same nusach, but it's just extra special. How are you extra special, Zakrashi? Zehirus is I'm careful not to do something b'shas ma'isa. Zerizus is that he did something preempting, meaning that he was careful even earlier that he made sure to have washed. That's how Rashi teaches the chiluk between Zehirus and Zerizus. And that's why when in the first taich, when he was saying in our first understanding that Rav Hamnuna was careful not to touch, that's careful b'shas ma'isa not to touch. The reason was that he preempted it by having washed before because he expected to have eaten. That's Rashi's taich in this Gemara. Yeah, and Rashi says that Zerus maybe the day's Zerus because Zerus is a preempting. It's an extra special. It's Zerus on steroids. That's how Rashi teaches it. But famously, we know the Mesilas Yesharim's taich. What's the Mesilas Yesharim's taich? The difference between Zerus and Zerus. He famously says that Zerus means being careful not to do asay, not to do not to do wrong. That's Zerus, and Zerizus is fakir when it comes to mitzvahs, doing something, right? That's Zerizus. That's how the Mesilas Yesharim learns. But so again, it's not like Rashi. Clearly, not like Rashi over here. But however, in our Gemara, it's also still Gishmak the Mesilas Yesharim shot because when he spoke about not touching, in other words, he's not doing something wrong. He said Zahir. He's Zahir. But then when he spoke about washing the Tiyos Adayim, which is a kumvaseh, he said Zerizos. Zariz Zariz Kademu Mashi Yodei. Very Gishmak. Beautiful. Yeah? Beautiful. Yeah? Gewaldig. Okay, let's go weiter. Sagt die Gemara weiter. Toshma. And I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to check what the Ilm says, but yeah, okay, good. I'm sure people say this, but we'll maybe afterwards we'll see who says. Okay, Toshma. Sagt die Gemara weiter. Amar Rav. Eat another prusa b'sechpev. Oh, so we're going to bring another riot to the Shaila about what if somebody's being fed if he has to do Netilas Yadayim. A man from Rav. Lo eat another prusa b'sechpev shel shamish. Elam ken yedeh b'shenat yadav. You shouldn't put a piece of bread into the mouth of the shamus. The shamus, he has his hands all loaded up. He's a waiter, and he has to want to give him a little food. Don't put it into his mouth unless you know for sure that it's not the other. It's a l'chura raya. There's going to be a gavaldig raya to this shaila that what if you have to if a what's called it. If he has to wash into today, we'll get to it. Let's finish up the memory of Rav. And what's the halacha legabi? When does he have to make a bracha rishon or legabi every kais, or are they connected? Every time he drinks, every time he eats. So Rav is machalik. When it comes to drinking, he's not clear if they're going to give him a lot to drink. It could be that they're going to be karg and they're not going to give him much to drink, right? So Mela, not so clear, right? So he's mevarach al kol kais v'kais. There ain't a mevarach al kol prusa. But when it comes to food, he can be pretty confident that he's going to get food, and therefore he doesn't make a bracha on every piece of bread. Rabbi Yochanan mevarach al kol prusa. Rabbi Yochanan says no, he has to make a bracha on every single time they give him a sandwich. Yeah. Amar Rav Papa, Bishlam, the second part, the Rav, Rabbi Yochanan lekasha. I'll explain you what's the pshat. I don't even have to say it's a machlokes Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Lekasha, hadek adam chashuv, hadek adam chashuv. The Rabbi Yochanan is talking about when there's nobody in charge, there's nobody there in adam chashuv that's going to make sure that the shamish gets to eat, and therefore he has to mevarach al kol prusa. And Rav says shamish mevarach al kol kais. And I'm sorry, Rav that says ein mevarach al kol prusa. It's talking about that there is an Adam Chashuv. There's an Adam Chashuv. If there's an Adam Chashuv, so therefore he's going to make sure that the shamus gets to eat his lunch, and therefore he doesn't have to make a bracha al kol prusa. Yeah, and a bracha al kol prusa. But lemaisa elim ken yedeh shenat yadav. L'chura, we see from there that he said that he can't give him to food unless we know that he's going to yedeh shenat yadav. So Mel is l'chura should be a riot by oichel machas machal that he must wash his hands. So tomorrow, no, we could say like this: Shani shamish de tarid. Now, Be'etzem, there's a lot to be married about this Gemara, but the lashon of Rashi, we just read the Rashi inside. Shani shamish the tarid. That since the shamish is hamesubim v'shekeach shalei notal v'negea ba'oichlin sheyechel. So therefore, we're not afraid of that. We're afraid that the shamish might be. In other words, every other person that's fed is not tumult, and if he's not tumult, he could just be fed and he won't touch. Masha'enkein, the shamish that's tumult, he has a lot of responsibility making sure that the meal goes kishura, and therefore he might end up touching the food, and therefore he is somebody that we can't feed. We have to be careful not. He has to be wash his hands before the Tiyos Adayim. That's before he is fed. Before somebody sticks something in his mouth. That's how we can be mafchid Gemara. We'll see how we're going to pass it ahead. This is and the halachas that we had before. We had the halachas legabe all different kinds of shmuzin. It was a thing, a problem of it was roi for some kind of a ruach ra, something was kosher for a ruach ra. But here the Gemara is saying out kas. A person should not give a piece of bread to the shamish. Bein shakos biyad, bein shakos biyad shabal habayis. Shemiyer dvar kalkol besuda. We're afraid that if somebody's going to give a piece of bread to the shamish while somebody else has the kois in his hand, someone's going to get upset. There's not enough food. Why are you giving the shamish? And maybe something's going to spill, and therefore it doesn't matter who's holding the kois. Just don't give food to the shamish while somebody's holding a kois. We could have problems. V'ashamish shloi not al yadav. This is what's neged to us. V'ashamish shloi not al yadav. Asal itin prus l'sech piv. Right? And here it says that shamish shloi not al yadav. Asal itin prus l'sech piv, which is similar to the halacha that we said before. So to Gemara, and we're going to see how we pass. Nibayilu Michael tzorich Michael tzorich netilas adayim ma'eni tzorich. What's the halacha? Not about somebody who's being fed, somebody who's feeding. Does he have to do netilas adayim? Tashma, yeah? Yeah. Tashma, the Tani the Beit Menashe. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Oimer, Isha mediches yada, achas b'mayim. This is a halacha where? Where is this halacha? This is a halacha legabe on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, that the halacha is you're not allowed to wash your hands. It's one of the things you're not allowed to wash your hands. We'll see in a second when you're not. We'll see the whole Tosfos. But bottom line is, but the halacha is, Rabbi Gamliel says that Isha b'dichas yada achas b'mayim when they send us pasal b'na cotton. The child that is eating on Yom Kippur, so she's allowed to she's allowed to wash one hand, not both hands, but she'll wash that one hand for Netilas Adayim before she gives the son the bread on Yom Kippur. Who's eating? Right? So we bring a raya that a Michael has to wash his hands. And Amru Olav Shamei Ezakin Shloi Ratzal Hachal Ben Abiyad Achas. He didn't want to even wash one hand. Because of all of Sheichel B'Shtei Adav. And the Chachamim were going that he should go and be Sheichel B'Shtei Adav, that he should wash both hands and feed the child. Yeah, that's the story. Whatever the pshat in that story is, but that's the Gemara. So the chura is a raya that a Michael has to wash his hands. Yeah, that is how. That's what the Gemara wants to bring the raya. Amabaya hasam mishum shifsa. That is because of ruach ra. Now, what's this ruach ra? So Rashi learns that this ruach ra is the ruach ra of the morning. In other words, that the pshat is that this is negavasa. That's how Rashi learns, right? Right? Hasam mishum shifsa zok Rashi ruach ra shoyra yadayim shlei not l'shachris. Right? Avol not al yadav shachris v'lein nizabahem ubal achlas chavei ain't tzark natila. That's the Gemara. Yeah, that's how Rashi learns. So hasam mishum shifsa is the ruach ra of the morning shifsa, the morning ruach ra, and that's what we're talking about. That the guy didn't wash negavasa. However, Tosfos is chaylik. Why? Why is Taisus chaylik? Because Taisus holds that everybody could wash netilas is allowed to wash negavasa. Why is Taisus hold you allowed to wash negavasa? And this is how we paskin. Because right, Zok Taisus. Why are you allowed to wash negavasa? Because there's halacha that what? There's halacha that if there's lichluch, you're allowed to wash off your hands even on Yom Kippur. Zok Taisus, right? Zok Taisus, Mufrashav any time the blindness in us pasla tenik mutal itol yadav shachas b'yam kippurim d'leikar mulchachas betet. Right? Because it says that was mulchachas betet avadi reichis kedaka v'nechoshish. Right? Ve'ein l'chom mulchachas yosef mizeh she'en yachal liga bepevu be'einav b'chayt be'evu ha'oznai. Who's worse meluchlach in somebody who can't who's going to be nezeh? He can't touch his eyes or his mouth or his nose because he's worried about a ruach ra. And therefore, so what's shifts over here? What's the pshat in this Gemara? Again, what do you mean Hasam Mishum shifts? You washing your hands because of the bread. He washed already in the Til Sedayim in the morning. That ruach ra. So Taisa says that we're talking about a different ruach ra. We're talking about a ruach ra not that's sheira on the hands. We're talking about a ruach ra that's sheira on the food. And somehow, and therefore, somehow, if you don't. I don't know exactly how it works, but the ruach ra somehow it's an interesting thing. Ruach ra hashoyra la'oichel, and it's shoyra on the oichel, and then you wash your hands, and somehow that helps the ruach ra from not going and not being chaynik. I don't know exactly.
Not doing something when it goes to the throat.
Somehow I don't know. It's a ruach ra on the food. So how's washing my hands going to help? It sounds like it says some kind of a school of the gazach that there's a ruach ra on the food, and the way to refrain from the food of being chaynik, somebody who eats it, is by washing your hands. And then Taisa says over here, Taisa says, so why are we not makbar on this interessant, the new ruach ra that's shayra on the food? So Taisa says it's the same thing that would ain't on them with that we're not zayir on zugos and giloi and a lot of things. Taisa we're not zayir on zugos and giloi, not like those that are makbar on it. Taisa because they're not mitzuyim beinenu. Yeah, that's this Taisa. So right, let's move on. Yeah. We mamish have to move. So right. Toshma de Avud de Shmuel Ashkechel de Shmuel. This is a very good story. Yeah, we could relate to the story. Avud de Shmuel was found Shmuel. Shmuel was a little boy, and the kabachi, and Shmuel was crying. Amalei amai kabachis. Why are you crying? He said, the machim rabbi. Because my Rebbe hit me, so I'm crying. Amai, why did he hit him? So he says, Shmuel says, the Amali, because my Rebbe said, Kasafis leberoi v'le mashas yadeh. Because his Rebbe was the Rebbe of Shmuel's Rebbe was upset that he fed the Rebbe's son something to eat without washing his hands. So Avud Shmuel's really is, yeah. Oh, wait a second. He asked him, why didn't you wash his hands? This is very interesting, because Avud Shmuel first asked Shmuel a kasha. He's going to eat, and I should wash? Not fair. If I'm going to eat, memela. But if he's going to eat, I should wash my hands? That's not fair. Who achav ano mashina?
What do you want to do in your eye?
What?
What does the man want to do now?
So I think, well, listen. Amalei. So Avud Shmuel told Shmuel, Loi mistaya deloy gomer mimchanami mochi. Not only does this Rebbe not know the halacha, and he thinks that you had to wash your hands, but even though you're only a Michael, he's going to go hit you. Gar shaloika halacha. Not only does he not know the halacha, but he's going to go and hit my child based on his lack of knowledge of the halacha. And that's the end of the story. So the story is, so what do we see from there? We see from there that a Michael doesn't have to eat, which is how the Gemara Taka Paskins yeah.
Reading your eye from the little kids?
I guess from the fact, no, from Avud Shmuel that he said, "My loy misnayid loy gomer yemim chinami bachi." So what was the shakavataya? V'amay loy moshes. Why did Avu Shmuel asked him about Ma'ale Moshes? Why? So he also didn't know the halacha. No. So the pshat is, I guess we would say that the pshat is that Avu Shmuel assumed that they both ate. And then when he said, "Hu achav ana mashin," he understood. Oh, you didn't eat, so you didn't have to wash. Yeah. Sagt die Gemara, somebody who eats, even if he's being fed, he needs the Tir Sedayim. But if somebody's feeding, he doesn't need the Tir Sedayim. In other words, that the chiyuv of the Tir Sedayim was Gizak Yivarna, the one that eats, and then even if you're doing Shloi Kederach and you're the one that's touching the food, it doesn't matter. We go basa the one that's eating, not basa the one that is feeding, and that's how we're going to end the Gemara, because we have much to cover. So the end of the Mishnah, a person can tie together meat and cheese together in one shmata. It's no problem. He could store it in one shmata. But as long as they're not touching, it's okay. The Gemara is going to say exactly what we were chayshish and why not. Two guests could eat on one table, and one is eating meat, one is eating vina, and there's no chashash. So before we go weiter, I heard a share somebody was being matmiya very stark on the seder of the Mishnayos, because the Mishnayos before were talking about Shulchan Echad, right? They were talking about Shulchan Echad and Shulchan. All the Mishnayos were talking about Oil al Shulchan, and then we break for Tzorah and Basar Gvina b'Bachas Achas, and then all of a sudden at the end, Reb Shimon Gamliel comes back to Shulchan Echad. What's going on over here? What's the pshat to say to the Mishnayos? Yeah. See, he wanted to type like the Teres Chaim, but the Teres Chaim says that Tzorah and Basar Gvina b'Bachas Achas is also talking about Shulchan Echad, and we're trying to say that the pshat is you're not choishish that he's going to come to eat it. Also, such a kind of halacha. But l'maisa in Shulchan Aruch is not brought down like that. That would be a chiddush. I would say a very, very pashta zach for this question. For the seder of the Mishnayos, I would say like this: the Mishnayos were talking about putting on a shulchan. That was the questions. Oif and basar, etc. Eating together on one shulchan. Then the Mishnah feared us. The last halacha that we got in the Mishnah was that's all about eating the food, but with preparation of the food, that you can put them both on the same table. So there's taka shulchan echad, and the closest thing to that is, now how about storing the food? Storing the food is teradam basol gvina v'tbachas achas v'achlo yinegin zebazeh. That's the last halacha. Then Kedarka Shal Mishnayos, we're bringing a new Tana. Now we're bringing Rav Shimon Gamliel. Now we're going back. When we bring a Yachid, we always at the end of the Mishnayos we bring it. With the last storm of the Mishnayos is Tzorah and Basar Gvina b'Bachas Achas, which follows very nicely preparing food, now storing food, and then we bring it Das Yachid, a Yachid, or Rav Shimon Gamliel, even though we pass on every time Shimon Gamliel is in the Mishnayos, but that's it. That's Yachid. We bring it after we've finished all these halachas of storing and preparation of food. I would say that to say that the Mishnayos is not so dachak in the first place. So the Gemara weiter. Okay, Mishnah says that what? You have to make sure that they're not touching. Well, if they're touching, who cares if they're touching? What are we worried about? It's they're both cold, right? You both have them in the mitbachas. It's cold meat and cold cheese. Who cares if they touch? Let them touch. It's not going to be a problem. So the Gemara, it's true that since it's turning b'tzayin, so therefore I'm not going to have to remove kedei klipa from each part, but upon him I'm going to have to do hadacha, because that the little bit a little of the shamus from this goes onto that, and I'm going to have to wash off the surface, and therefore what the Gemara is saying is, so Mela, it's aser to go and put them together in a case where they're going to be neigin zebazeh, because once it's boy hadacha, we're going to be chayshish, they're not going to do hadacha, and therefore it's going to be aser to put it together. Yeah, that is for state in our Mishnah. Let's move on. So the Gemara writes Let's move. Reb Shimon Gamliel lo mishnei achsunei moichel ma shulchan echad. Amar Rab Chanan bar Ami Amar Shmuel lo shanu elo shema ein makirin zeh avu makirin zeh aser. If they this halacha that the pshat that this halacha that two people, two achsanoim, it have to be two achsanoim that don't know each other. But once they know each other already, they're makir zeh. We're going to be choishish that what that they will eat one from the other. Therefore, it's going to be awesome. That's what the Mishnah says. Yeah, that's what the Mishnah says. Tiny nami achi Shimon Gamliel loimer beis achsanoim shenesachu lepon dekechod. Beis achsanoim shenesachu lepon dekechod. Zeh bo min atzofen. Sagt die Gemara weiter, weil Beis Achsenoim shenesachlu upon the Gechod. It says mamish before in the Mishnah shenesachlu upon the Gechod. Zeh ba min atzofim v'zeh ba min adorim. One is coming from the north and one is coming from the south. Zeh ba b'chasei with a chunk of meat. V'zeh ba b'gvinasei, and this guy is coming with a piece of cheese. Eichena shulchan echad. Zeh basa v'zeh gvina ve'echoishishin. V'lo yasru ella b'tvisa achas. Now these words lo yasu ela b'tvisa achas is a very, very big shmuz in Tosfos. Let's first learn how Rashi is explaining b'tvisa achas kinira, and then we'll talk about the two pshatim in Tosfos which are mamish negei la'alocha. Lo yasu ela b'tvisa achas. So this is how Rashi's mashma. Lo yasu ela b'tvisa achas zok Rashi b'tvisa achas. Tvisa means a grab, but Rashi says b'krach echad. Right? So Kinira, Rashi means lo yasu el b'tvisa achas means one city. It's very gishmak in the Gemara. That the pshat is beis achsanoim shenesachu lepon dekechod zeh ba min atzofim zeh ba min adorim lo yasu el b'tvisa achas one city. Frag the Gemara tvisa achas salke daitoch. Right? What's the Gemara's kasha? Tvisa. It's not clear what the Gemara means. It's mamish not pasha. It's mamish not pasha. Tosfos is going to say I have two pshatim. I'm just going in Rashi. Yeah, in a second. We'll see over Tosfos in a second. What does it mean for lo yasu el b'tvisa achas? It kinira Rashi means for lo yasu el b'tvisa achas means in one city. Frek the Gemara tvisa achas sal kedaitoch ella ke'ei tvisa achas ad kana Gemara. What exactly is the Shakavataya Gemara? What exactly is the Shmuz? Is a very, very, very big tumble. We can't cover it all. I'll just say over what it seems, how it seems Rashi's learning, and then the two pshatim in Tosfos. Yeah? The Gemara's kasha is v'lo yasu ela b'tvisa achas is mashma that v'lo yasu ela b'tvisa achas they only asered one city.
What is one city? What did they ask here in one city?
It's right, not clear. So it's not exactly clear. It's not clear. Again, it's not clear how what the Shakavataya Gemara is. It seems like Rashi's learning like this. Is that the Havaminis Gemara was that we're answering everybody in one city to eat together. In other words, that you can answer two people that are in the same city, even if they're just two people in the same city without eating on the same table. That again, we're talking pshatav and mamish. Yeah. So tomorrow, no, in other words, that only if they're two people that are familiar with each other.
Not only if they came from one city.
Yeah. That's pashtus what the Gemara means. Now Tosfos goes like this. Tosfos has two pshatim or tvisa achas is like this. Tosfos learns that also tvisa achas is a new halacha. This one second.
Tvisa achas, but my kidding
yeah. Pashtus. That's that's pashtus what the Gemara means to say. Lo Rashi. But Tosfos learns it's a new halacha. Lo yasu el b'tvisa achas is a new halacha. And what's this new halacha? A machlokes. Toys says two pshatim. Either tvisa achas means that there's no hefsek, and memelos of toises will be a chiddush that you can make a hefsek. You could put a piece of bread in between or something in between the cholav and the gvina, and even if they're on the same the bus and the gvina, and it'll be mutter. Yeah. And tvisa achas is a lotion of one grab. And in other words, ke'en tvisa achas, as long as it's not ke'en tvisa achas, meaning there's a hefsek, that would be good. And Tosis brings a raya by Avnei Merkulis. There's such a kind of a thing that if you put something in between, it's fine. But Tosis' second shot is a much bigger chumrah that. I'm sorry. Tosis' second shot is really a big kula, but it's really a big kula, but it comes out of chumrah that we don't have this concept of a heker, but Tosis, so it will come out of kula and a chumrah, but lemaisa Tosis liyasu el b'tisa achas means a concept of tusa bayis. The pshat is they will only aser it b'tusa achas if they both bought, if it was both paid out of the same account. If it was both bought from the same account, so then you're going to aser to eat these two things because they were bought from the same account. So there's a chashash that you're going to eat, that you're going to mix them. But if it's two separate accounts, and therefore and each one has his own grocery bill, then there's no makom to be choshish that they will eat one from the other. That's
That's what my kira means.
I don't know if that's what makir means. Like Tosis, I think it's another shmuz.
Another slav.
Yeah, another slav. Yeah. Okay. Zok Gemara weiter. Let's move on. Amalei Rav Yemil bar Shami la'Abaye. Shnei achim makbim zel zeh mahu. What's the halacha legabe? And this is a big shmuz legabe. What happens to people that are not shnei achim? It's a big machlokes, but I don't know if we have time for that. The Achronim talk about it, but let's talk about the Gemara. What's the halacha with two brothers? They are brothers, so they're close. They should be close, but they're makbidim zeh. They're unfortunately not on good terms. So what's the halacha? Amalei yoimru kol asrike masurim musrike baises mutarim. This is a famous Gemara, and this is the language that we use on the concept of loiplug. What does this mean? The halacha is the Mishnah in Pesachim teaches us that it's also to make matzah that's all fancy, to have all different kinds of fancy tziyurim on matzah. That's what's called a srikin. Srikin is like fancy designs. Why? Because the pshat is because the woman is going to take it, the one who's making the matzah, she's going to take time to make her designs. It's going to become chametz. So mele they asked it all srikin. Lamaisa, there was a guy called Baisis that made himself a form that he just put the matzah into the form, gave it a stop, and it had it a form, right? So therefore that doesn't take any time. So let's say Baisa should be mutter. Let's say Srike Baisa should be mutter. So you want to know Yoimru Kol Srike Masurim Srike Baisa Mutarim, and that's why. In other words, and therefore Leiplu. No, all Srike Ma'aser, not even Srike Baisas. So male effect Gemara Kasha. Let's have the same thing by Shtei Achim. That Yoimru, right? That Leiplu. That even though Achim, these Achim are makpidim zazeh, and milk there's no makom to be chosh. They're going to mix the milk and meat. But the ma'isa, Yomer Shrika Baisis is called Shrika Masurim Shrika Baisis Mutar. Frek the Marakash. So you don't say like plug. Ultamei Chad Amar Avasi Amar Aviyechna Misha Ein Le'Yel Chaluk Echad Mutal Lechapse V'Chol HaMoed. That even though the halacha is that it's also to wash your shirt on Chol HaMoed, but somebody who has only one shirt, they will mat him to wash it on Chol HaMoed. Again, Yoimru Kol Shrika Masurim Shrika Baisis Mutarim. After the Gemara. Hasam ha'amar Marbar Rashi Ezuri Mechiach Alav. That why Marbar Rashi says, you know why it's mutter for him to wash his shirt? I'll tell you why. Because that shirt had a belt in it, and the belt was in loops. It was always in loops. Now, if somebody was washing his shirt, right? By definition, if you wash your shirt, you pull out the belt and you wash the shirt, right? Why? Because you put on the belt because you have to wear the belt. So you take off the belt and you put it on and you put the belt on your shirt, and then you wash the shirt that you're washing, right? That's normal. But this guy has only one shirt, right? So when he took off his shirt and he's naked and he's washing his shirt, what did he do with the belt? He left it in there. He left it on the shirt because where's it going? Why should he take it off? So he's washing the shirt with the belt. So memela ezuroi mechiach olav. It's clear. The people that see him washing the shirt see he's washing a shirt with a belt in it. So it's very clear that he's somebody that's only in the other chalukachot, and therefore it's mutter. So what's the shakavataya in the Gemara over here? What's the shakavataya in the Gemara? Right? Mashake by over here by Achim Akvidim Zeh. Over there's no hacker of Ezura Mechiach Olav, and therefore we'll say loy plug. That's basically the Gemara. So what's the shakavataya in the sugi over here? What's the shakavataya? So I think the word is like this. There's two ways how to understand Yoimru Kala Srika Masurim and Srika Bais Mutarim. What does that mean? That means like this. In the Havaminas Gemara, the Gemara is saying is that Yoimru Kala Srika Masurim, Srika Bais Mutarim, that can't be. We can't have such a thing. We can't mix a match. We can't mix a match. And therefore, if we can't mix a match, so we can't start splitting things up. They're not right. People are gonna start saying that srikim these are our mutter, these are mutter. We can't start doing that. And therefore, because we can't start loy plug rabbanan. That's why loy plug. The second shot on loy plug is not the word is we can't mix it. The word is we're not gonna say that. Yoimru Srika Kala Srika Masurim Srika Bais Mutarim is said in sarcastic form. In other words, that's not what people are going to say. Of course, we could be mechalik. But that's not what's going to happen. People are going to say that all Srika Mutarim. Yoimru Srika Kala Srika Mutarim Srika Bais Mutarim Kala Srika Masurim Srika Bais Mutarim. You think they're going to say that? They're not going to say that. They're not going to say, what are they going to say? Kala Srika Mutarim. And therefore, that's why we can't answer. So, in other words, in a case where it's going to be, where people are going to be able to judge it correctly, we have no makom to be. We're not going to say loy plug. Where are we going to say loy plug? We're going to say loy plug only in a place where they're going to make the mistake. And so by achim, we're assuming that they are going to make a mistake. People aren't going to say, oh, they're makpidim zeh. Mashenkin over here, where they are mashenkin by ezur machiach olav, people are going to recognize, and they're not going to say the reason is because all chalukas are mutter. They're going to say it's only this guy that says ezur machiach olav. So in other words, we have to judge every time what people are going to say for the loy plug. It's not the pshat is that loy plug is a rule, hard and fast. Okay, let's move on. This is the big sugya. Let's get to the sugya. Now, the way I want to learn this Gemara of Tipas Chalav is the Gemara breaks up before we get to the Mishnah. Before we do the Mishnah, the Mishnah and the Pshatav of the Mishnah is going to be is the Gemara is going to talk about. But before we talk about the Mishnah and the Pshatav of the Reisha and the Seifa, the Gemara is going to learn up something else. There's going to be another sugya that we're breaking. So let's see the sugya before the Mishnah is going to talk about Tipas Chalav, and it's going to be totally Yinois and Tam, and we'll see exactly when, what, where. That's going to be the Mishnah and the next Gemara of Chaticha Nasan available. But before we get to that, let's see the first Gemara after the Mishnah, which is a Zayt the sugya, has no shaykhis to the Reish and the Sefer of the Mishnah. Let's see that part, and then we'll go back to the Mishnah and see it. Yeah, Amar Abaye. Yeah, Amar Abaye. I want to bring a raya from this halacha that what? The tam keker. Tamay v'loy mamoshe. And Rashi stresses very, very much, ki yodua, this is very, very important to Rashi, because Shitas Rashi is that we paskin, and this Gemara is one of the sources of Rashi, that Rashi holds for that we paskin tam keke is lav doiraisa. We'll see, because we paskin like Rava, we'll see the Gemara, we'll see Rashi, Taisus will see, but Rashi learns machlekes Abaye and Rava, and we pass like Rava. But that tam keker is lav deraisa. But what is it? We're talking about after tamay v'loy mamoshe, meaning that there's only the flavor, but there's no mamoshes. I already removed the mamoshes. In a case where the mamoshes are dissolved, that's not this case. In a case where the mamoshes was there and then it broke up or got cooked up and it's still here, it's not discernible. That's not tam of mamoshe. That's not the shmuz of tam keker. That's mamoshe. Tam of mamoshe ba'alma doiraisa. These hakadak the rabbanon mi bas b'chol. My time of the gaminon. If it's rabbanon, why are we going to learn up from bas b'chol? By bas b'chol, we see this concept of nice and tam. And so why don't we learn it out from bas b'chol? So in other words, it must be that it's doiraisa, and we could learn it. But since it's said in a very, very roundabout way, right? Why doesn't it say because we learn it up from bas b'chol? No, it's doiraisa. The isa kedaito the rabbanon mi bas b'chol my time loy gamina. So you'll tell me, I'll tell you. You know why you're not learning out from bas b'chol? Because the chiddush. Now here, in the concept of chiddush, bas b'chol is a chiddush. Now what's the chiddush of bas b'chol? So what's interesting, and Tosfos also points this out over here, that the Gemara in Psachim discusses this mamish word for word. And the Gemara says, what's the chiddush of bas b'chol? And the Gemara brings two pshatim. And the Gemara is matcha the first one, and blags by the second one. Rashi over here, in Abaya is gonna bring both svaras.
Also only as tam.
What? We'll see.
You have meat and milk together.
But it could be. We'll see. It could be only time. We'll see. It could be only time. Well, that's our Mishnah. We just said in our Mishnah. The tipas chalav shenafal al chatichem yeshba b'nais and tam. Yeah, I know. But it's I told you it's going to say a tipas chalav with a nice and tam. Anyway, Bekitza, state in the Gemara that what? So what's the chiddush? So the Gemara is going to say two svaras. So Rashi quotes the Gemara of two svaras. And then when he says it's not a chiddush, if you're going to say it's a chiddush, then if it's a chiddush, and then Rashi says, and then Rashi's only matcha the first svara, not the second svara. It's a really unusual thing. The Gemara, the Gemara in Psachim goes like this. I have two reasons to say that bas b'chol is a chiddush. What's the first reason? The first reason is because you have two things that are mutter. And then when it's arev, and it becomes aser. That's a chiddush because you have two things. That's unusual thing. Normally you have something that's a davar also. The Torah doesn't want you to touch it. No problem. Have meat to your heart's content. Drink milk as much as you want, but don't mix it. That's unusual. That's a chiddush. Rashi brings down that svara. Now the Gemara brings down that svara, and the Gemara is matchit. Why? Because the Gemara says that klayim is the same concept. You have two things that are mutter, but just don't mix them. So then the Gemara brings down another svara. What's the second svara?
That's all right. It's on a chiddush.
Yeah. What do you mean? We find it by klayim. Yeah. Then the Gemara brings down another svara, which seems like the same, a similar svara. That what? Another svara. That what? Which Rashi also brings down. That basar b'cholav. That if you're going to soak basar and cholav together for hours and hours, and the halacha is that the flavors are going to mix, it's still mutter because derech bishul asum Torah, right? Why did Torah asa dafka derech bishul? It must be that the pshat is that it's a chiddush, and right. So Rashi brings down both of these svaras. It's very interesting. So Tosfos right away points out, what do you mean? The Gemara didn't blind by the first svara, right?
Klein.
Because klein. The Chiddush who pierced, we're going to name in Heta, Zelevada, Ikshasav, Nesorim, Vitam Zelikama Belovim, the Klein Maviach, Hochi Havu. Umasik, the Hainu Chidusha, the Torah Likul Yom, Bechal Bashari. Yeah? And Rashi brings it down. It's very, it's a big problem in Rashi. Yeah? Zok the Gemara, let's see. Zok the Gemara, I Chidushu. So it's mashma is a chiddush. If you're going to tell me that the reason why by Bas B'cholov it asks is a chiddush, but we can't learn that from them. I chiddushu, I forgot to like a nice and tam nami. If it's a chiddush, so then why? Who said by Bas B'cholov we need nice and tam? If the pshat is the Torah aser, it's not a chiddush. So then I understand that the Torah needs nice and tam in our Mishnah. But if it's a chiddush, who told us that I need nice and tam by Bas B'cholov? That's how the Gemara goes. That's how Abaye's raya. If it's a chiddush, so who told us I need nice and tam? If the pshat is, it's not a chiddush. If it's not a chiddush, so then I understand why I need nice and tam. But if it's a chiddush, the Torah said, don't put these two together, no matter what, who says I need nice and tam? So from the fact that we assume that by Bas B'cholov we need nice and tam is a raya that Bas B'cholov is not a chiddush. So, I don't want to be baruch, but it could be, Tosafos' question is, that alone is in question. In other words, here's the svara. If you hold time with Mamoshay, if you hold time cake as daraisa, so then you have two things. You have tam caker, so you have tam here, and it's taka like klayim. But if you hold the tam caker as not daraisa, so you don't have two things. You only have one thing. You have tam, but you have two things that were mixed without tam keker, and memela, and it's not david to klayim. So that's the shakav ta'isa sugya. In other words, could we compare it to klayim? In other words, there's three stadim here. Could klayim be aser? Is Bas B'cholov like klayim? Is it not like klayim? Is it like klayim that it's two things that are also because it's tam keker? Or is there a tzad that tam is going to aser even without tam keker? That would be a chiddush. Okay, that's just a thing. But let's not mix up. But the bottom line is like this. Zok to Gemara, let's get clear. Zok to Gemara, Zok to Abaye. So it must be tam ke'ikr. The fact that we with that makbid on tam, it must be that Bas B'cholov is that tam ke'ikr is daraisa, and that's why by Bas B'cholov we need tam. And memela in kol Torah kula, if you have tam even without mamoshes, it's aser. That's Abaye's right. So to Gemara, so Rav. No, you know why? You know why you need nice and tam? Because derech bishul asra Torah. Derech bishul asra Torah. Yeah? Derech bishul asra Torah is the pshat is, and v'bal derech bishul asra Torah, so memela, what? Memela, that's why, and derech bishul is nice and tam. So kipshutoi. What Rav was just did, he was matcha, Abaye's raya of tam keker daraisa, and Zok Rashi earlier in Daf Tzadi Tes, I believe, says that here's a raya that tam keker is the tam we baskin tam keker is rabbanon. Mashenkin Tosafos over here. If you look at Tosafos over here, Amar Rav derech bishul asra Torah, he brings down his pshat over there where he dingzach with Tosafos. Tzaddik Kesam Mevez, I'm sorry, and he says Dichuyimavu Tibehacha Lekal Meilvav Tam Keker Havi Daraisa Get to be Rashni Perikad Gedanasha. Yeah, that what the Tosfos argues with Rashi. Not that the pshat is Rav is arguing and saying Tam Kika Lav Doiraisa. No, about Tam Kika Doiraisa. Abai want to bring a raya from our Mishnah. The Tam Kika Doiraisa Zok Rav, you can't bring a raya from our Mishnah. But Avada Tam Kika Blibes Doiraisa. This is one of the big machlokes in the Sugיא of Taruvis. Do we pass in Tam Kika Doiraisa? Rabbanon Shittas Rashi's Tam Kika is the Rabbanon. And Tosfos Shita is Tam Kik is the Raisa, and this is a big makar. How to learn this Gemara is Rava arguing on Abayi's halacha, or Rava is just being matcha Abayi's raya. Clear? Good. If I want to say a svara that I was omid on today, so I just want to say it real quickly, but it has to do with this week's parsha. And I want to say it real quickly about Klayim. Klayim is two things that are mutter, and the Torah said said it's also. So what's the pshat that it's also? Befrat by shatness. I don't know if you ever heard this from me, but what's the issa by shatness? So we said a svara like this. I'm not gonna be married and all the pshatim the Rishonim say that, but maybe you could say like this: by shatness you have wool and linen, right? Wool and linen are very clearly. The Eibishter made very clearly for two separate uses. Wool is very clearly the Eibishter made it as an outer garment. Wool it accepts dye. Linen you can't dye with linen. Wool repels liquid. It can't be absorbed. It can't be used as an inner garment. It's not good for big desire. It does not absorb liquid. It repels it, and it's warm. Mashenke linen is the reverse, and it's very clear that the Eibishter mamish carefully, took care of Bnei Adam. He provided for them for outer garments and inner garments. And Mamela is very mistaber that one should recognize the Chesed HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to split up the shatness, to split up Tzemer and Pishtim, don't mix them up, fakir, to recognize the how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides for us. I think that's a very nice geshmak of shat and shatness. And Memela, the bar over here is selling to Klayim to Basar B'Cholov. Maybe we have a new pshat in what Basar B'Cholov is also. Maybe the word is that we know that the pshat is there are milchige people and there are fleishige people, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu Taka provided for us a nice geshmak, a heavy supper, and on the other hand also a light breakfast, and there's two different kinds. There's amola breakfast and a supper is two different kinds of meals, and the Pshat the Eibishter, he provided us these two things, and that's why it's taka similar to the concept of shatness, where the Torah said don't split, don't mix them, don't mix and match. I recognize the how much I provided for you in this kind of thing, and in that kind of thing is two separate things. Maybe that's the two things. It's taka chiddush, but it's similar to Klayim, where the Torah, where the Eibishter wants us to recognize how carefully HaKadosh Baruch Hu took care of our every needs, and He served every little thing. It's a chiddush that I was on this morning. If you like it, good. If not, let's move on. Now we have to do the sugya of the greater sugya Chanan. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Tipas cholav shenafla ala chaticha. Yeah. So we're going to see that there's two pshatim, Rashi and Tosfos in the pshatov of the Mishnah. Is it one case or two cases? So Rashi is going to learn that the Mishnah is talking about two separate cases. I have a tipas chalav, a drip of chalav, shenafla ala chaticha. It fell on one piece of meat that's floating around in this pot of meat. Chalent, if in that piece of meat there's benois and tam, in other words, that the piece of meat is too small to be mevatel the tipas chalav, what's aser? The piece of meat. The piece of meat becomes aser because why? Because of tipas chalav fell on this piece of meat. Now, what's the story with the rest of the pot? Zok Rashi, we don't know. The Mishnah decided not to discuss the rest of the pot. That's what Rav is going to discuss. It's going to be a machlokes in the Mishnah. If you hold Chanan, we'll see in a second. But we don't know what's going to be in the rest of the Mishnah. in the rest of the pot. All we're discussing is this tipas chalav bottle? Zok the Mishnah, if there's benois and tam, meaning that there's no shishim connected this tipas chalav, the tipas chalav is going to ask a piece of meat. What's with the rest of the pot? Ayin. Wait for the Amoraim. That's how Rashi is going to learn. We'll see how Tais is going to learn soon. Niyas Akadeira. Now, what are we talking about? This Mishnah is talking about a different case, meaning that I didn't let the tipas chalav stay on the chaticha for a while and get absorbed by this tipas chalav. As soon as it fell in, I right away gave it a big mix. Niyas Akadeira. So now I have a right, Zok Rashi, to go use shishim not connected that one piece of meat, but the imyeshba b'nei setabai sukadeira also. So now I can be mevatel tipas chalav with the whole pot. Clear? Clear Mishnayos, right? Now, so in other words, what we're really discussing, like Rashi, the question is not the status of the rest of the pot. We're discussing about this tipas chalav. Is this tipas chalav extant or not? If there's not shishim in the one piece of meat, and I left it there, and I let it be absorbed by that chaticha, so then the chaticha becomes aser. But if what? If I quickly gave it a nice big mix, a quick mix, so then I was mevatel the tipas chalav in the rest of the pot. Right, under normal circumstances, one piece of meat, it can't be mevatel tipas chalav on its own, but with the whole pot it could. Clear? That's the Mishnah. Now, let's see the Gemara. I think we should see the Gemara first, and then we'll discuss the second shot how Tais is going to learn. Tais is going to learn that the Reisha and the Seifa are both talking about the same case. Let's see the Gemara. Sagt die Gemara weiter, Amar Rav, picking up the Mishnah, Amar Rav, Kivan shenosan tam bechaticha, Sagt Rav Amoydige Chiddush. That what's going to be with the rest of the pot? Yeah, like Rashi, very geschmack. We're talking about in the Reisha what? That the tipas chalav fell on one piece of meat, on that pulka, and that pulka is ein ba b'noisen, it's yesh ba b'noisen tam. In other words, there's no shishim connected to tipas chalav. So l'chura what? This tipas chalav, so this piece of meat became nesar. Kivin shenosan tam b'chaticha, chaticha atzma nasis nevela v'yiseres kol ha'chatichas kulam. So Rav is really saying two halachas. First of all, Rav is going to be mavur that Rav it goes like he holds like Rabbi Yehuda that mim b'mina lebatel. And since mim b'mina lebatel, zok Rav, I don't care if this is a huge vat and there's thousands of pieces of meat here, but once this one piece of meat became nesar, so now it's going to answer all the rest of the meat. Right? Now, that's one halacha. That's Rav Shita. Now, we don't need the other chiddush of Rav is going to still be negeya la halacha, and we paskin like we paskin like Kanan, even without that nekuda. Why? Because it could be negeya in a different case. Where let's say I have a nice cholent, and the normal cholent, the one piece of meat doesn't have shishim connected to tipas chalav, but the rest of the pot has shishim connected a tipas chalav, but it doesn't have shishim connected to piece of meat, right? So what'll be if let zak Rav that once the tipas chalav fell on the piece of meat, now the tipas chalav becomes a nevela. And now I need shishim kineged the piece of meat. That is the halacha of Chanan. That chaticha atzma nasas nevela, and I have to go be mevatel the chaticha.
You shishim mavheta.
I need shishim mavheta kineged. Now Rav goes a step further, and he happens to hold that memina lebatel. And since Mimina bottle, so Mimela, it's not going to help me if I have Shishim connected the Basar. But that's Rav Shita. That's a separate halacha. But even if we didn't go with Rav Shita, Rav still saying that I need Shishim connected the Basar. Klar? I need Shishim connected the Chaticha. Yeah.
I did it become
Yeah. Klar? Yeah, so far so good? Good. So the Gemara, so before we're going to get, so the Gemara is going to go off on a small tangent. Think about it like this. One second. So Rav is saying that the pshat is bottle, and therefore no matter how many pieces of meat, it's not going to be in this bottle. But frankly, Gemara, good. Okay, you can't be bottle with the thousands of pieces of meat, but let the roitev come and be bottle it. Why? Because we have the concept of salek, that even if there's min b'minoi, we put the minoi on the side and we let the roitev come be mevatlet. Amle mazut breider morila vina michti rav keman amal shmaitzik rav yuda dama min minoi bottle lema pliga ad rav dama rav kasam rav yuda kol shu min uminoi v'davar acher. Then we have a concept of salekes mina k'misha einoi v'sheina mina rabal v'um bevatlet. That even though I have thousands and thousands of pieces of meat, that would become aser als min b'minoi bottle. But I don't say that they all become Nasar and they overpower the right. Fakert, I say that I'm salekes minoi k'misha einoi, and I'm mevatel with the roitiv. And the roitiv, even though the meats, the thousands of pieces of meat, can't be mevatel this chaticha, but the roitiv could come and be mevatel that chaticha, and that the roitiv is sheina minoi. So the Gemara, amalei idin afal b'roitiv raka. If it fell, what do you mean idin afal? Talk about it. It seems like that they're talking about the pshat now Mishnah. Idin nafal b'roitiv rakom hachanami. If it fell in liquidy gravy and hanami, then the gravy would be considered an eminah. Hacha b'mayaskinon the nafal b'roitiv ava, that it fell into very thick, very thick roitiv. And Rashi says it's made out of dak shel basar v'shumon the kulei min basaru. Yeah, this is a very important Rashi. Rashi seems to say that that shuman is considered a min basar. I don't know if you remember, we discussed it. The raya, if chelev is considered a min shuman is basar, what min it is. Yeah, this is a shmuz. But Rashi over here says clearly that shuman is also min basar. And memela, so therefore I don't have any shein minoi to be rubber of, and therefore it's going to be out min b'minoi. And memela, once you have a chaticha, Rav says min b'minoi they bottle, and the whole vat is going to be nasa. That is the halacha of Rav. So I just want to red ice one little k'nech over here, that the way Rashi is learning, it could be in the pshatava over here. It would seem that Rav is teaching pshat in the Mishnah. That hacha b'mayaskinon, who's the hacha b'mayaskinon? Hacha b'mayaskinon, Rav was saying a pshat in Rav, right? Well, the word is Rav is saying a teich in the Mishnah. The reason why the Mishnah didn't say what's the halacha with the rest of the pot, we left it ambiguous gufa because it's telling the machlokes Rabbi Yehuda the Chacham. Since like Rabbi Yehuda is going to be Nasar, so we left it ambiguous. We didn't talk about the rest of the pot. And what's that, right? Because it's telling the machlokes Rabbi Yehuda the Chacham. Frankly, Gemara, what do you mean? Why is telling the machlokes Rabbi Yehuda the Chacham might is a concept of salek? So the Gemara, no. So the Mishnah is talking about in a case that it's right to Ava, and therefore the Mishnah left it ambiguous because telling the machlokes Rabbi Yehuda the Chacham. In this case, that's where the Mishnah is talking. It would seem okay. So the Gemara, right? Now the Gemara introduces a concept of efshel l'soichte. Now, efshel l'soichte is very, very difficult because efshel l'soichte sounds like it's the same question of chaticha atzma nas nevela all over again, and that's the difficulty. This is one of the big shverkeiten in the Gemara. The Gemara seems to ask efshel ma'ikasava efshel l'soichte also efshel l'soichte moto, which seems to be the same question of do you hold chaticha atzma nas nevela, not chaticha atzma nas nevela. That is the one of the big shverkeiten in the pshat of the Gemara. Let's just say it, and then I want to quickly say over the other two shittas in the thing, and we'll stop for today. Let's just You know what? I think we're going to leave this here. Let me just say over the other shitas. Yeah. So shitas Rashi is we'll leave it here. We'll pick it up tomorrow from Efshel Soichte. That'll be on base. We'll do that tomorrow. Okay. We'll do it tomorrow. Let me just say over. It's getting late. Let me just say over the three shitas. Shitas Rashi legabe Chanan is that the chaticha atzma nasa nevela. That what happens? That the pshat is that even though the tipas cholov fell on that one piece of meat, and that tipas cholov fell on that one piece of meat, and the tipas cholov stayed in that piece of meat. It didn't go anywhere. But after became chaticha atzma nasas nevela, and now the nevela, just the time of the meat, is going to answer the rest of the pot. So, Lord, Rabbi Yehuda, even if there's thousands of pieces of meat, and the didan that we don't hold like Rabbi Yehuda, okay, we don't hold like Rabbi Yehuda, so it's not negaya by thousands of pieces of meat, but I need 60 keneged the piece of meat, 100%. And if I don't have 60 keneged the meat, I'm chanan. That's shitas Rashi. Okay, now there is a shita. Toys asks a kasha like this. Frek Toysvis. Every time, if there's a concept of Chanan, if it's true what Rashi say, every Chanan, so Frek Toysvis, how do we do Malicha every time? Or every time, how do we do Malicha? You're going to do Malicha. What's Malicha? Malicha is that I have a problem. I have blood in the meat. Right? I have blood in the meat. I have to remove the blood. So how do I remove it? I take salt and I cover it with salt, and the salt draws out the draws out the blood. Frek Toysvis. Why didn't I say Chanan on the salt? And I know for sure the salt went into the meat because taste the meat. The meat is salty. So I'll say Chanan on the salt. And now the salt is the nevela, and the salt should turn around and answer the meat. This is Tosfos' kasha. So Rabbeinu Ephraim Mikoyach says that there's no chanan only by basar b'chalav. That's Rabbeinu Ephraim's. But Shitas Tosfos is that no. Avada we do avada irasas. But Zok Tosfos a big yisoid, and this is the yisoid that's mamish the massive yisoid of Tosfos, that ein hanesar yochal lesser b'liya oiser, meaning that it depends. Even if you're going to say Chanan, meaning even if you're going to say that the meat is asering, Chanan is only said that it doesn't need the shear of the oyster, but I need some of the oyster to come along. So in this case, Lamoshel, I can't aser without a little bit chalav coming along. Chalav has to come along for the basar to meet the aser. I don't need a nice and time of chalav, but if as long as a mashu of the chalav comes along with the basar, then the basar could aser. But ein had nesar, meaning the chatichas basar. Ein hanesar yachal lesser b'liya oyser, without the underlying oyser. So right. So in this case, I can't. So Lamashal Zok Tosfos. In this case, by let's get back to Malicha Zok Tosfos. That the pshat is that although the melach is going to return into the meat, but it's going to return the meat without salt. So no problem. That's the pshat by Malicha. That's Tosfos' mahalach by Malicha. So Memel over here is Tosfos. So why over here? Why over here is it asering? Because because Tosfos is going to learn that the chalav is going to go along together with the meat. Right? The chalav is going to go along together with the meat. And if the chalav goes along with the meat, then it can aser. But if the chalav is not going to go along with the meat, it's not going to aser. Now, Zok Tosfos, and Memela, Niyas HaKedera, and Yesh B'Bnei Nabois HaKedera also. Why? Because the pshat is, now I will be mevatel the chalav, and there won't be any chalav left. Now I won't have and now I won't be able to. I won't have any underlying chalav b'chlal. Once the original chalav is nisbatel, so memela I won't have any chalav to asa the first piece of meat. There's no din of chanan that it becomes that now just basar itself asers, because I need the chalav also to be able to aser, and then it could be able to then the basar could be able to be aser together. And I think with that, we have enough to think about. And tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem, will be mamsheh.